Okay, let's finish out the series on what the belts in jiu-jitsu mean. Today, I'm going to attempt to answer the question, what is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu? A little caveat, I don't claim to speak for all black belts. All I can do today is give you my personal, subjective opinion on what a black belt is, so that's what I'm going to do. Let's get into it. A little housekeeping before we begin. I've got 3 things to throw at you. First, I've got a whole bunch of new t-shirt and rash guard designs over at artofskillgear.com, so please go check that out. Number 2, if you go to rickellis.com, you'll find a growing collection of jiu-jitsu instructionals, including my latest one called Old Guy Cheat Code, the blueprint for grapplers over 40. And number 3, there are still a couple slots left for the Costa Rica trip. If you haven't heard, I'm gonna be in Costa Rica along with Roy Dean at the Hero BJJ retreat this November 2023. It's an incredible experience if you've never been to something like this. It's a combination of world-class instruction and an amazing vacation rolled into one. For more information, just go to herobjj.com and they'll hook you up. And I look forward to meeting you and I look forward to training with you. Okay, so what is a jiu-jitsu black belt? Well, the obvious answer is that a jiu-jitsu black belt is an expert in jiu-jitsu, and that's actually true. Although most black belts, many black belts might recoil at that. Why? Because universally, there tends to be a lot of humility among black belts. Why? Because you will have had to check your ego at every stage of the journey. The journey of jiu-jitsu, if nothing else, will humble you because the struggles are real. And it'll continue to humble you even when you're a black belt. As the saying goes, humble pie is always on the menu. As a result of that, black belts tend to be pretty humble. There's also an interesting dynamic in that when you get to black belt, a lot of black belts say, this is where my learning really begins. This is where I can be a real student of the art of jiu-jitsu. There's this idea that all of the preparation you've done to get yourself to black belt, yeah, you've learned a lot, but now you're ready for the real information. And that's an interesting way to look at it. And I think that's an expression of the Dunning-Kruger effect. Dunning-Kruger effect is that the less skill you have, the more you will tend to overrate your skill in some domain. It takes skill to accurately assess your skill. And so by the time you get to black belt, you're pretty good at assessing how skilled you really are. And even though you're a black belt, a lot of times you feel like, man, I feel like I know nothing. I feel like there's so much more to learn. I can see the vastness of the art of jiu-jitsu now in a way that I couldn't see it before, and I realize how little I truly know. As a result of that, you tend to be pretty humble. And so the suggestion that you have achieved mastery as a black belt or that you are an expert, a lot of people will recoil at that. Good example, my friend Chris Makuta, who was in town last week, and you can see him on last week's video. We were having dinner, and my girlfriend said, what's it like to achieve mastery in so many different martial arts? And he kind of went, no, I hate that term mastery. I'm not a master at anything. I'm just a student here. I feel like I'm just a beginner, really. And that's what I'm talking about. That's that humility. But objectively, you have achieved mastery if you reach the level of black belt. Mastery just means comprehensive knowledge, comprehensive ability. And mastery is a continuum. Just because you have mastery doesn't mean there aren't masters that have even more knowledge and skill than you do. So that's a little bit of a caveat up front because I wanted to just deal with the fact that I guarantee there are black belts listening to this that are going to say, no, I can't say that I'm an expert. But objectively, you are, compared to the you that was a white belt or compared to a white belt walking in the door for the first time, you certainly are an expert in jiu-jitsu. And while we're talking about attributes like humility, let me throw a few other attributes at you that I believe are necessary to be able to earn a black belt. Most black belts will have at least some, if not all of these attributes, starting with the ability to defer gratification. That's fundamental. You have to have the ability to work toward goals that are very, very far removed from your current reality. You have to have grit. You have to have tenacity. You have to have determination. You have to have dedication. You have to have the ability to stick with something over a long period of time. It takes a decade, give or take, to earn a black belt. Man, if you don't have the ability to defer gratification and work toward long-term goals, you will never make it. So you need to have that determination, that grit, especially in the face of so much failure in jiu-jitsu. Failure is something that will follow you throughout the entirety of your journey. Think about being a white belt and getting tapped over and over and over again and getting stuck in side control. And, there are an endless series of challenges and problems and difficulties in jiu-jitsu that require you to overcome in order to continue to advance through the ranks. And those types of challenges never really go away entirely. At every belt, you're going to have your struggles, and black belts are human beings. You're a human being. You're not going to have a spectacular night every night. You're going to have crappy nights once in a while. And so the ability to just keep putting one foot in front of the other, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, is foundational. If you don't have that, you will never get to black belt. Another attribute that I think is universal to black belts is an unbreakable spirit. It's this no-quit attitude that no matter how bad the struggle is, no matter how dire the situation might be, you're always in it. There's always a solution. You're always going to keep moving yourself forward, keep pushing forward in order to be successful. And there's a saying I love. I heard this from Pete McHugh. He said, a black belt doesn't mean you are unbeatable. A black belt just means, or it should mean, that you are unbreakable. And I love that. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have a breaking point. I mean, they took some Navy SEALs and waterboarded them, and they found that the average SEAL tapped out after 8 seconds. So everybody has a breaking point, but you should be way, way tougher by the time you get to black belt than you were early in the journey. I certainly was. And a good example of that is my own black belt demonstration on YouTube. You can go to Roy Dean's channel and look at the video. It's called No Mercy for Old Men. What I'm most proud of in that video is that I was taken into deep waters. I was pushed to a point of physical exhaustion. I was in heat distress. There's a lot that you don't see in that video. It's very compressed. At one point, I was literally moaning with every breath. It was an involuntary thing. But the thing is, it never occurred to me to quit. It never occurred to me that I wasn't going to keep moving forward and pushing and getting myself, furthering my situation there. So, yeah, that unbreakable spirit, I think that's pretty universal among black belts. I also think that the black belt should have physical mastery. The journey of jiu-jitsu will teach you so much about your own body, about what your own body's capable of. It will increase attributes, especially your isometric strength, your ability to hold positions, hold tension, tensioned positions. It will also teach you how to move with precision. As a white belt, I didn't move so great. As a blue belt, my movement patterns were better. I was more coordinated, and that has continued to this day. And so physical mastery, learning your body, understanding what you can do, what you can't do, mastering the art of taking joints to the end of their range where there's the potential to break the joint. And you have to kind of become a biomechanics expert to become a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And the journey will make you a biomechanics expert in terms of how the body moves, even though you may not know, okay, all the structures of the shoulder and the elbow and so on. You still have an amazing ability to take joints to the end of their range safely in order to get the tap. So physical mastery is part of that journey of jiu-jitsu. And also just being a positive influence in your home dojo. I would say a leader as well. The darker your belt gets, the more you're expected to be a leader in the academy, even though most people don't seek leadership. Most people are followers, and black belts as well. Most people are simply followers, and that's okay. I don't say it disparagingly. The world can't function if there aren't followers because they're the ones that do all the work. But understand that people are watching you in the dojo. If you're a brown belt, purple belt, black belt, people are watching you. They see how you comport yourself. They see how you handle defeat. They see how you handle victory. They see your work ethic. They see your attitude. And they look to you as someone that is leading the way for them as they go through their journey. And so the black belt is a belt that places some expectations on you in terms of how you should comport yourself. So those are some of the attributes that I think are necessary to get to black belt. Let's talk about the focus. What is the focus at black belt? Because every belt has a focus. I did a t-shirt design for my swag store in which I described, in fact, I'll throw it on the screen here. I described each of the belts of jiu-jitsu using one word. White belt is survival, blue belt is fundamentals, purple belt is combinations, brown, pressure. Black belt is the belt of efficiency. I think that is the primary impulse. At black belt, you want to be able to tap people, you want to be able to dominate people, you want to be able to escape bad positions, you want to be able to play the game of jiu-jitsu so efficiently that you can be effective without having to work as hard. So what you're looking for is just details. And that really becomes the holy grail. That's the never-ending journey of jiu-jitsu is, can I pick up a little detail here? Oh, there's a little detail. That's a technique that I know really well. I don't hit that all the time. Maybe it's because of that little detail that I never realized until today. And so the journey of jiu-jitsu gets smaller and smaller and smaller. You're looking to fill all the little gaps. You're looking to round the corners. You're looking to shave off impurities. It's sort of like if you chisel something, if you're a sculptor and you take a block of stone and you start chiseling a face or some kind of piece of art, the early stage of that journey, you're hacking off big chunks of material, right? That's the white belt journey, just hacking off the big chunks. Eventually, you're just using little tiny, little sandpaper and very fine tools to try to, get all the details of that thing you're making absolutely perfect. And that's really the journey of jiu-jitsu, especially from black belt forward. It's just the details that you're looking to amass. Not that you don't learn new things, with continued training, but you're really looking for those little things. I would also say that the black belt is the belt where you put your personal signature on the art. And you do that through the expression of your preferred techniques and positions. Everybody has an A game. You have an A game, you have a B game, and you have a C game. When you're a white belt in jiu-jitsu, everything's a C technique. You don't have anything that's an A technique. But eventually, with practice, things will start bubbling up. Some of your C techniques will become B techniques, which means, okay, now you're starting to play them. You're starting to hit those things. And then eventually, some of those things will bubble up and become your A techniques. And those are the techniques that let you be effective against, the most skilled people that you go against. And so it's the expression of those techniques that lets you kind of put your flavor and your signature on the art of jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu is a vastly deep art, which is interesting because there are not that many ways to manipulate joints. The shoulder, the elbow, there's not even that many joints. Shoulder, elbow, wrist, knee, ankle, and there's only, so many things that you can do with a joint, but yet there are hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of techniques in jiu-jitsu. The assembly of those techniques into a cohesive game is what defines your game versus how I assemble those techniques into my game. And so as a way of giving back to the art of jiu-jitsu and raising the water level of jiu-jitsu, as a whole, I think every black belt puts their small signature on the art through the expression of their techniques and the positions they play. If you're a brown belt, what should you be working on to get to black belt? Well, you're probably already doing that work, because the black belt or the brown belt is really the belt of completion. It's the belt where you should take a critical look at your game and assess it and look for all those areas where you're weak. Maybe you're primarily a top player and your bottom game isn't as well developed. Well, at brown belt, you need to spend a lot of time on the bottom developing that game. And so maybe your chokes game isn't all that good. Well, you got to spend some time working on your chokes. So the brown belt is the belt of completion. Well, that process is what's going to get you to black belt, because as a black belt, you don't want any glaring holes in your game. You should be able to be put in any position, top or bottom, offensive or defensive, and you should know what to do from that position. And so that's the work that you will do as a brown belt to get to black belt. And that's the work that will continue kind of forever, because again, you're looking to keep finessing and fine-tuning those little details so that you can eventually have a perfect game. That's what we're all training for, to have a perfect game. If you could have a perfect technique, then you wouldn't need any physical attributes whatsoever to be successful. But the truth is, none of us have a perfect game. We're all striving for that, which means that we have to use some physical attributes. Well, the journey of jiu-jitsu is one of attempting to perfect our character, perfect our game, perfect our technique, and that never ends. So I hope that gives you some insight into the black belt, and I appreciate you watching this content, and please like and subscribe if you enjoy content like this, and I will talk to you next time.